Hi everyone, welcome back to Box of Delights. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm not doing a playthrough, I'm not doing a rules video, I'm going to do a little tricks and tips video. So we're going to learn some of the tricks, some of the secrets, some of the perhaps little skills of playing this game well that you may not have picked up as you've been learning the game. So if you want to discover these for yourselves, switch off, go and watch something else. But if you fancy getting a few little tricks and tips on how to improve your game, this video is for you. My first tip is thinking about how you pay for actions, in particular upgrading in the markets. Now, a lot of people think that upgrading in the market is straightforward, that it's always a no-brainer. So let's pull out an example. Let's say this is in the market, Deception Spike, it costs 2 yellow. If I've got a card that provides 2 yellow in my hand, a lot of people's first reaction is, well, this is a straight up upgrade. This is a no-brainer. I swap this for this, done. Which of course it is, but the decision is sometimes a little bit more complex than that. If I buy Deception Spike with Diversion, I've paid 2 yellow. This gets removed from the game. This gets added to my hand. This is now in my deck. This is out of my deck. But there is an option here. If this is my hand, let's say I pay with 3 yellow instead of 2. I've overpaid. So my first tip is overpaying. In this instance, I've overpaid. I've paid 3 yellow for this 2 yellow card. This goes to my hand. Now I can remove one of these cards from the game to replace Deception Spike. And this goes to my discard. Now Diversion's still in my deck. I can use it in the next cycle. I lost a 1 yellow card instead of a 2 yellow card. So it's not always as straightforward. Don't be thinking, oh, I'm only going to pay that cost. I mean, the other option here is, all right, I paid the 2 yellow, but let's say I've got no need for this red. I could throw that in, remove this for the game in place of Deception Spike. Add this to my hand, this goes to my discard. So now I've lost 1 red. I've covered the cost, I've bought the card, but I've kept all the yellow in my deck, ready for next turn. Obviously, overpaying in gold cycle, in the final cycle of the game, is not always a wise thing to do, but in copper, absolutely, especially if you feel that you need to adjust the slant of your deck towards the silver and gold goals that are coming. Okay, so always think about overpaying. Sometimes overpaying is not that straightforward. There might be other reasons why you might do it. Let's have a look at Adrenaline Surge, for example. Adrenaline Surge has an ability that says when you play this card as part of an upload action, place an additional program of the uploaded color. So let's say I want to upload a yellow program in my space. I pay 3 yellow, but I could also throw in Adrenaline Surge. Now I've overpaid. I've paid 3 yellow and 2 green, but I've used Adrenaline Surge towards it, which means its ability kicks in. The other thing about Adrenaline Surge when overpaying, sometimes you can just use it when you're not overpaying. Let's say I had a red instead of a yellow. Well, now I can use Adrenaline Surge to help me pay. So uploading costs 3 of a colour. So to upload yellow, I want 3 yellows. Well, I can play 2 yellows. Any 3 commands are always wild. So 3 commands are purple. I can make purple yellow. So that's 1, 2, 3 yellow. I've used Adrenaline Surge towards it. Therefore, its ability kicks in and I can upload 2. Right, so always look for opportunities to exploit the idea of overpaying. Buying from the market is the main one. Throwing something like Adrenaline Surge into an upload action is another time when overpaying works. So staying with the market, my second tip is using Digital Tattoo. There's 3 copies of Digital Tattoo in the Advanced Command deck. You know this because there's 3 dots here that tells you there's 3 copies of this card. 2 copies of Deception Spike, 1 copy of Exotic Software. Okay, Digital Tattoo, there's 3 of these. When you see it in the market, think about how you might use it. Digital Tattoo says when you play this card as part of an upgrade action, it also generates 1 purple. But let's say I want to buy Ping Nexus and I don't have any red in my hand, but I do have 1 green and 1 yellow. So now I could, with these 2 cards, buy Ping Nexus using Digital Tattoo. So it's a 2-step thing. So first thing I do is I buy Digital Tattoo with my 1 green. So that goes out, this goes to my hand. Now Digital Tattoo, it's green, so players are thinking this is a green card, but remember it also provides a purple when used as an upgrade action. So I can use yellow and the 1 purple from Digital Tattoo to now buy Ping Nexus. I could throw that back in the market now, keep this card, and now I've got Ping Nexus. So I've changed the cost of it. And the thing about Digital Tattoo is if it stays in the market, you can keep doing this trick. Always be on the lookout. See Digital Tattoo in the market? No, this is a way to kind of shortcut the cost of things if you have a green in your hand. Tip number 3 is using reveal effects. There are 3 purple cards with reveal effects: DNI Reboot, Copycat, and Root Access. What does a reveal effect mean? When you've got a reveal card in your hand, let's say I want to get DNI Reboot. Let's buy Digital Tattoo and use Digital Tattoo to buy DNI Reboot. Perfect. When this card is in your hand, all you have to do is show it. Reveal effects are once per turn. Okay, remember a turn is playing out your hand. So DNI Reboot says once per turn, put any number of cards from the upgrade area to the bottom of the upgrade deck and then restock. So I can reveal this card, and that's it. I've used it once per turn, but I can still use this card. I can still use it for its 2 purple commands. Okay, so reveal it just means reveal it. If you're playing solo, you're just revealing it to yourself. Yep, I've revealed it. Just remember that you've done this once this turn. So in here I can get rid of these and refresh the market. Now I can't use it again because I've done it once, but it's once per turn. Let's say I get to the end of my turn. Remember, at the end of a turn, you can save a card for next turn. So I decided to save DNI Reboot. Draw 5 cards. Now I've got 6 cards for next turn. I'm on my next turn. I can use DNI Reboot again. So I can reveal it and say, nah, there's a bunch of cards here I don't like. Take them away. Restock. Okay, so that's a reveal effect. And if you want to use it more than once, save this card and use it again. But as soon as I use it for its 2 commands, it's discarded. But there you go, reveal effects, really useful. Don't forget to use them. People sometimes forget their character's ability as well. Always look at all the tools in your toolbox. Reveal effects are some of the most powerful effects in the game. If they're in your hand, don't just see these commands, because as soon as you've played this card and discarded it, you can no longer use its reveal effect. Try and maximize their impact on your turn. That's what they're there for. All right, let's go to the board then. Let's go to the network and see what are some of the tricks and tips of using your pieces on the network. So tip number 4 is using pathways to rearrange stuff. Now, you know when you move, let's say I've played some blue commands and initiated a move, I can move along a pathway for free. I can go back and forth. And you know that when you move, you can carry the programs of one color with you. So I could move from here with my yellows. With one movement, I can move along a pathway for free and then spend my 1 movement to jump off it. Take these yellows with me. But whilst you're on that pathway, you can also drop things off and pick things up and continue moving. So on a pathway, you can rearrange all of the programs on that pathway before you decide to end your action. So look out for that. If you've got programs on a pathway and you're moving on that pathway, you can freely just rearrange these things however you wish. Maybe I want to get them all up this end. You can do that for free because you can pick up and drop off programs, go back and forth for as long as you want until you decide to end your action. Okay, tip number 5. One of the hardest things to do in Deckers is defeat a white guardian. Your avatar cannot enter a space where a white guardian is. Or if it does enter, it gets randomly thrown across the network. So if I'm standing here, this happens and I get ejected. This time to purple 6. So how do you get your pieces in there and attack a white guardian if you can't move your avatar in there? Well, the answer is you use a green installation. So if I'm on a green installation, I can ghost my action. So let's say I want to move some red programs into this space. I can't move in there, but my ghost can. So I start a move action here with my ghost. I'm going to pay 1 blue command, and now I'm going to start moving. I'm on a pathway, so I can move along here for free. Okay. So with ghosting, all you do is you place your ghost token down, take your action. When you finish your action, you remove it. But from the moment you start acting with your ghost, it's just regular rules. You're just acting with this instead of this. So with this one movement, I can pick up these red pieces. Remember, I just told you can rearrange stuff on a pathway. So if I wanted to, I could bring these yellows back in here. I could even move them over here. So I'm moving along, I'm picking up these red ones, and then with my one movement, I've decided to plop my ghost in here, and I'll drop off the red pieces here. All right, so that's action number 1. I finish moving, my ghost is removed. And then if I want to infect it, again, I can take an infect action, play some red commands. I'm at a green installation, so I can ghost my action to any space on the red server here. So I've decided to ghost it here, and now I can take an infect action. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 versus 4. We roll the dice. They've got 10, I've got 11. We've defeated the white guardian. I'll remove my ghost. Incidentally, if you don't like the die roll, just throw enough red in there to make the die roll insignificant. Okay, just put more red commands, guarantee your roll. But that's tip number 5, defeat white guardians using a green installation. Tip number 6 is modify. Now remember, if you're on a space where you've got more yellow programs than black programs, you can modify them. And to do this, you would pay 1 yellow and the command of the color you want to change into. You remove 1 yellow for this, 1 black for this, and replace it with a program of that color. Okay, so we've modified this into green. Perfect, that's modify action. But we've lost a yellow piece. So my next tip is, if you can, modify to yellow. Because if I modify to yellow, or when I modify to yellow, I've paid a yellow and I'm turning the black into yellow. So for 2 yellow, you're effectively just removing a black piece. So a modify with 2 yellow acts like removing a spark. Just think of that. 2 yellow, I get to remove a spark. But you need more yellows than black to start with. Unless, of course, there's a yellow installation on this server, and then you only need as many. It's just an equal number. So cards like Reroute, which have yellow and wild, they're very versatile because you can treat that as yellow, yellow, or yellow and anything else. So with a card like Reroute, just get rid of the spark. Nice. So that's my tip number 6, modify to yellow. Tip number 7, creating guardians on purpose. Yeah, I know it sounds strange, but there are times when if your supply is running low on sparks, you need to get some more sparks back in the supply. And you think, how can I do this? I haven't got enough weapons at my disposal to get rid of these sparks. Well, there's an easy way. You can create a guardian on purpose. So let's say I'm standing here, I've got all these sparks out. I want to get rid of some. Well, let's say I use focus and shift. So I could shift, say, this one in here, which creates a guardian. That will put 3 sparks back in the supply. And then maybe I'll do it again. I'll shift these 3 up here. put these sparks back in the supply, suddenly my spark supply is looking a lot safer. Now you have to be a bit cautious. Remember, when a guardian is created, it removes everything from its space. So you might have to be a little bit cautious and look out for putting two guardians next to each other, because that can create game-ending threats that you then have to deal with. All right, so creating guardians to get sparks back in the supply. If you're facing something like Spider, which is probably the first time you might think about doing this, this is only a 2-star. Spider doesn't like creating guardians, but does like making you run out of sparks. So you might find this trick useful for Spider, because obviously creating guardians is something you'll try and avoid normally, but when you need to, it's a great little tactic. There's other times too, so I know some people have been struggling with null and void, particularly at higher player counts. People are like, how the heck can we do this? Create guardians on purpose. The other tip with null and void is this only happens during the action step. Okay, so if you're facing this, what happens is it says during the action step, any sparks removed from the network are put on this card. So if I did this as a shift, these would all go onto this card, not back to the supply. So how does that help? Well, it only happens in the action step. Now, if you look at the logic for most of your SMCs, Vikings probably the only real exception, but for the others, you can control to some extent, and oftentimes to a large extent, where the SMCs are placing sparks during the start of turn step and the spawn step. This doesn't affect those. So during start of turn and spawn, think about how can you make the SMC form guardians to put sparks back in the supply rather than on null and void. This is the trick for null and void. Null and void is really great because the success and fail, well, not the fail event, the success event doesn't add any extra sparks. You always know you'll be able to manage. If you get to success, you can put all the sparks that have been collected are going to go back on the network. But again, you can purposely create guardians from them if you wish during this success step and get them back in the supply. All right. So look out for these little tricks. Is there times when you can place a guardian in a convenient spot? I mean, one thing about Viking is if you can get a guardian in a spot where it's only surrounded by even numbered spaces, those guardians become less threatening. So think about those kind of things. Can you purposely build a guardian to get sparks back in the supply? My tip number 8 is a bit of a beauty, and it may help you in your early games with Hackman as well. But this one's very specific, and it's about one card, and it's a green card. I've already shown you Digital Tattoo and Adrenaline Surge. Green is one of those very powerful colours, but people don't often find the tricks associated with them. Green tends to be a little bit more tricky, and you have to learn them. But here, I'm going to spoil this one for you. This is Magnetic Pulse. Magnetic Pulse has an execute effect. Relocate one installation or one guardian from anywhere on the network directly to your space. So this is really useful. Normally, installations are not movable. But with Magnetic Pulse, let's say I want to control blue, I can move an installation to my space with its execute effect. But even more powerful, let's say there's a couple of sparks here I want to get rid of, and I'm standing here, I can use Magnetic Pulse to pull a guardian to my space. And when a guardian enters a space, it deletes everything from that space. I've gotten rid of those sparks. I've put those sparks back in the supply. Another trick with Magnetic Pulse is to pull another guardian, use the execute to pull another guardian to your space. And again, it deletes everything on its space. So you can have a guardian remove another guardian with Magnetic Pulse. And then finally, I guess with this trick is to get rid of a white guardian. If you're at a green installation, you can ghost to the space where the white guardian is. Use Magnetic Pulse to pull another guardian to your space, which will remove the thing that's already there. It doesn't work the other way around. So if I'm here and I pull a white guardian over, it will delete this one. So it removes what's already in the space when it enters the space. But think about that. Pull a guardian to where a white guardian is, it will get removed. Magnetic Pulse is a really neat card. It costs 3 green, so it is a little bit costly, but look, it gives you purple, and it's got this very powerful effect to move square tokens around the network. Fantastic. Imagine using this with something like Copycat, where you can perform an execute effect more than once. Oof. Tip number 9. This is a good one. In the rulebook, you might have missed this, but if you look to the back, there's a couple of very useful things. There's index and a key here on the back, so use the index, but the thing I wanted to point you to is the appendices. Once you've played your first game and you're familiar with the rules, have a look through these appendices. It's got tips and clarifications on each SMC, all of the deckers, but also on every goal and objective, and little tips. If you read these, it might just give you a clue as to how to solve the goals that you're faced with. So when you've set up your game and you've picked up your objectives, go and look at the appendix and find the relevant. It may just be a one-liner. Some have no clarifications because they're straightforward enough, but some of them have got nice little tips that might just clarify how you might meet that goal. So use the appendix for each of the cards that are in your game. That's my 9th tip. My 10th and final tip is set up and look ahead. Your objective deck, remember your gold, silver and copper, that's one of the first things you do. You pick your SMC, you pick your objectives, and only then do you set up your network and choose your deckers. So when you're setting up in this game is part of the game. Okay? Creating your network is when the game has begun. Okay? It doesn't begin at turn 1, it begins creating the network. So look at your SMC, look at their setup instructions. How can you configure the network to make the SMC as less threatening as possible, to make your objective as easily achievable as possible? And setting up the network is a key part of the game. Tokyo Black is useful because they can reconfigure the network. Tokyo Black's ability can be useful, particularly in multiplayer. He's a great team player. And look ahead. You've built your objective deck, and this is very key to being successful in this game. Look ahead at these objectives. This is really my final tip. Look ahead. Okay, set up the network, pick your deckers, pick your team, figure out what you need to do to complete not just copper, but silver and then gold. And when you're on the copper cycle, you can be working on gold already. So if you've got Roman Road, which needs a network of, a pathway of blue programs, you could be loading them up in copper and silver so that gold is already done before you get there. Okay, always look ahead. You've got to see this as a mission from start to finish. This is your mission. This is your final objective. You don't have to wait till gold to start working on that. You can work on it right down here. Even if that means not succeeding at copper and silver, this is your objective. Always look ahead and make sure you've got enough supply, you've got enough tools, enough programs, installations out there to make these achievable. And that's it. That's my final tip. Meanwhile, I'll leave you to go and play your games. Have fun. Leave comments below if you think of some wonderful tips that you would like to share with your fellow deckers. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.